Before we get going, I just want to introduce Lynn from Titcomb's Bookshop. We are so excited to partner with Titcomb's yet again, the most amazing booksellers on Cape Cod. That's right.
Good afternoon, and thanks for being here to get through the storm okay. I'm Lynn Pellery from Titcomb's Bookshop, and it's my great pleasure to introduce today's author. Thanks to the Oakville Village Library for welcoming us and being an important community resource. They were a warming station for a number of days here, people don't know, and very valuable. I'm pleased to introduce Rachel Rueckert. She's an award-winning writer, editor, and teacher who holds an MFA from Columbia University and an MED from Boston University. Pirate obsessed her entire life, she wore a plastic sword through her belt loops as a child, drew ships on school papers, and frequently dressed as a pirate, including in her high school senior picture. Oh, it's been a long time coming. Did you ever try for a minute?
I did. It was a crappy hat, and it wasn't this. So.
If you follow Rachel on Instagram, her entertaining posts feature a plethora of pirate outfits and related escapades. Her pirate passion led her to excavate the lives of real pirates Anne Bonny, Mary Read, and Samuel Bellamy featured in her books. Rachel's first novel, If the Tide Turns, was about the famous pirate Black Sam Bellamy and his romance with legendary Maria Hallett, who is known as the Witch of Wellfleet. Those of us on the Cape are familiar with that legend. This evening, Rachel will talk about her newest novel, The Determined, which is an absolutely gripping story based on the true lives of Anne Bonny and Mary Read during the golden age of pirates. Given Rachel's research and history and knowledge of the history of pirates, you're sure to learn a lot, in addition to being captivated by this page turner of a novel. Thank you, Rachel.
Wow. Yeah, thank you so much. And there's a few other thank yous in the audience. I super want to appreciate. The Cape is, I can begin with, I know this place. That's my first line of it, the Tide Turns. I love the Cape. I love everything they're doing. Many of you are in the acknowledgements of this book. If you are in the acknowledgements, will you please stand up? And we can give you a round of applause too. Yes. Yeah. More proud of yeah, thank you. I know the storm was wild. I also need a volunteer of someone who would be willing to be the governor of the Bahamas about 300 years ago, a guy named Governor Woodes Rogers. And what that means is that you see there's a lot of gold in your midst today. Quick raise of hands. Did anyone ever make it to an event where the tide turns? Okay, a few of them did. So this was a rich time for the golden age of pirates, and I was giving out gold. It's like, oh yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for being here. The goal of today, and I'll say more context later, but the goal is to get rid of this gold and to give it to the governor. Is there someone who wants to be the governor and just like take people's gold as they participate and answer questions? And if there's gold in the row,
I can govern if you need.
You're gonna govern and do sea shanties? No, we need a different governor.
Somebody with a hat.
Yeah. Gary, do you want to be the governor?
Why not?
Good to see you. All the way from Philadelphia, friends. Okay. All right. This is now the governor. Yeah. So feel free to just like float around when anyone answers the question. Yeah, you'll just float around and
grab gold.
Yep. So you want to still have a seat. You still get to enjoy life. Yeah. Round of applause for our governor. Okay. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about The Determined, a novel I wrote combining primary text, field research, legend, speculation, and my own imagination to try to do justice to two of history's most infamous, and I would argue most willfully misunderstood pirates, Anne Bonny and Mary Read. There were women pirates. Raise your hand if you're like, oh, of course there were. Like, I totally knew there were women pirates all along. All right, yeah. There's a few, and Amy also just told me that there's a great resource on this too. Raise your hand if you're like, I did not know there were women pirates until recently or even right now. Okay, the majority actually. Okay, so there were. Happy Almost Women's History Month. And can anyone name a few? We named Anne Bonny and Mary Read, so you don't get to give your gold to our governor for that.
Grace O'Malley.
Grace O'Malley, yeah, get rid of some gold. Feel free to pass it down to I mean, not Gary, I mean, the governor. Perfect, yeah, Grace O'Malley in Ireland. Others,
Rachel Wall.
Rachel Watt, I don't know that one, that sounds great, give some gold, yeah. Anyone else?
I know another one, but I don't have any more gold to give.
Yeah, no, it's very, yeah, again, like happy almost Women's History Month. So there was Shek Young in China, who made everything that the golden age of pirates men look like nothing in comparison. There was Jacob Delahaye, who was a mixed race pirate, maybe likely a legend, but if not, fascinating. Apparently there's a woman named Jessica Shepherd here in the community who talks a lot about female pirates and has done a program here recorded. So I'm going to be checking out that live stream at some point. But there were also women whose names we have forgotten, a lot of women who were not on the record who, yeah, this is an opportunity to kind of recognize them. The same was true for women in the military at this time. Mary Read is a principal character, point of view character in The Determined, and spent a lot of time doing a full-blown Mulan thing in the Navy. And there was a quote at this time, anonymous source in 1762 said that there were so many women in the British Army that they should have had their own battalions. So again, I imagine, you know, we happen to have the names for some people, but there were a lot more. And so that presence is with us today. Yeah, so before diving into The Determined, and I'm really excited to, this thing is like 3 days old, and so it's really exciting for me to talk about. But there are 2 other books I briefly want us to revisit. Where did I get the Titcomb from? There we go. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so some of you were here for an event for this, or if you were Dave, you've been to every single one of my Cape Cod events and heard everything there is to hear about if the tide turns. This is also based on a true story. Thanks for the generous introduction, Lynn. It takes place at the height of the golden age of pirates. Sam Bellamy, a real dude, real history. He's well into the history books. If you've gone up to the Witta Pirate Museum, like this is that story. I'm just for those of you who have not read this book, who have not gone to the event, I'm just going to quickly catch you up on a few things. The first is that the golden age of pirates really spikes at the end of the Spanish succession in 1714, when you have 40,000 20-somethings who have just been put out of work and who have no other skills but sailing. It is also a very hierarchical society. There's not a lot of social mobility, and suddenly you get the golden age of pirates. It spikes up. Second thing I want you to know here is that though piracy is a complete spectrum and it's not something to romanticize, there were written democracies 100 years before the Declaration of Independence aboard these pirate ships. In some ways, it was like a really early representation of democracy. And so they did everything by equal votes. They divided the plunder equitably, and they provided some surprising benefits, including things like our first example, workmen's compensation in the West. These were 98% of them were from the military. They knew how dangerous this job was, and they created structures and societies to reflect that. So, you know, that's just like a little preview of some of the things just to catch you up. But there was one other thing in the code of the pirates, the articles, and that was no women aboard. No women aboard. Any guess for what the punishment might have been for violating this code? Code 6.
Eel.
Keel, yeah, thank you. Do you want to explain? Okay, get rid of your gold. That was a great answer. Do you want to explain what keel hauling is?
Sure. It's when they, well, there's lots of ways to do it, but one of the ways they do it is they tie like their hand and their foot, or their hands and their hands on either side of the stern of the ship, and then they, or the bow, I guess I forget what you did, I guess it would be the bow, be easier, and then pull in the whole length of the ship.
Yep.
Okay, underneath the
Under
ship,
the water.
along the keel.
Yep. Yep. Yep, that was keel hauling. Yep. Walking the plank was an invention of Hollywood. This was like more, yeah, one of the options, and it wasn't just pirates, it was also everyone at this time. Any other, yeah, it was not keel hauling. I mean, along the line, but actually people died not. But any other guesses? Okay, well, it was death. The answer was just death. You die. You die if you do this. Then Article 6 clearly states, no boy or woman be allowed amongst them. If any man were to be found seducing any of the latter sex and carried her to sea, disguised, he was to suffer death. And my little English major brain is like, the clarification of disguise tell me that this happens a lot. This has happened a lot, this disguise thing. So yeah, this novel, The Determined, defies that article in the Pirates Code pretty blatantly. It also takes place when the golden age of pirates is swiftly becoming less golden by a long shot. So in 1717, which is actually the year that the Tide Turns book ends, King George I issued something called a General Proclamation for the Suppression of Pirates. And basically this was just a general pardon because the seas were a mess after that war. People could turn themselves in for piracy and avoid the noose, or they could turn their friends in for cash rewards. And so things changed real quickly. So that, folks, is the shadow of where we start The Determined. It begins in 1721 in a Jamaican prison cell where we meet Anne Bonny and her friend Mary Read. They've just been captured and convicted of piracy, which is a very bad thing at this time. They are also both pregnant. This is a story about many beautiful things, but I will warn you now, it is not a Disney Princess Pirate story. Real history here. So just some quick rules of engagement before we just begin, so we're all on the same page. You notice there's all kinds of strange things in the audience. Again, with If the Tide Turns, if you answered a question, we gave you some gold. This is a time in history where we're no longer flush, and if anyone near you is convicted of piracy, you're going to be guilty by association. So we want to get rid of all the gold, giving it to our Governor Gary here from Philadelphia. So if you answer a question, or if anyone in your row answers the questions, you can start off again, okay? So that's the main thing. The second thing is that there's plunder at the end of this event. Do not actually plunder the books, like please actually support Titcomb. But everything on this table, like feel free to take. There's some custom art stickers and that quotes from the book that my newsletter voted on. So if you voted for any of those quotes, thank you. They turned into some fun art. And also I'll have my author's copy, and when I sign your book, I would love it if you could sign mine. So anyway, so plunder over here, don't plunder this, plunder that. There'll also be some sea shanties. We warmed you up with some sea shanties. You can participate or not, but as my friend already said, you do not have to be good to have some fun and join in. In fact, it's better if you're not good. It's more the vibe. Last is you can get rid of 2 golds if you make any pirate puns throughout the duration of the event, okay? And take me up on that. People have like not been taken, yeah. Be creative, okay? Any questions about those 4 things? We're clear? All right, let's test your ability to answer some questions, get off some gold, with perhaps the most important one. What do you think of when you think of a woman pirate? Images, scenes,
Pirates of the Caribbean.
yeah. Pirates of the Caribbean, off some gold there to our governor. And like anything in your row can go. Yeah, yeah, Dave's got you. Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean. That certainly is one of the things that set me off on my, here we are. Yeah. What else comes to mind? A woman pirate.
Specifically the way Anne Bonny was portrayed in Black Sails.
Yeah.
Not for me anyway, that's my first.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, like Hollywood, TV shows. Yeah.
Guys as male.
Disguised as male. Yeah. Go ahead again. Get the gold off. Pass it down. Yeah.
There's some Lego sets from the 90s that have amazing pirates. I don't know if you remember those, but they had this shark too that would, anyway. And so that really shaped
That
my
did it for you.
picture
Yeah.
of what pirates look like.
Yeah.
And there were not female pirates in those.
They were not female pirates. In fact, I have a 6-year-old next door neighbor who recently built like a custom pirate. If you went to one of those stores where you can just kind of use your own parts. And yeah, there was no pirate that wasn't bearded. There was no pirate head for that. So I got my bearded pirate rendition of myself. So yeah, that's a thing. So yeah, in doing this work, I had a lot of opportunities to kind of sit with our heritage and images and stereotypes when we think of pirates, which is already very, it's got a cultural kind of like kitschiness to it. It's already like something we sort of dismiss. And then women pirates specifically, I think, really ups the ante. So I'm just going to read a few paragraphs from my afterword, which is at the very end of the book that sort of talks about what's real, what's not, to give you a sense of where I'm coming at with this book.
Don't tell us how it ends.
What's that?
Don't tell us how it ends.
Yeah. Don't worry. I'm invested in not spoiling this. 3 days off the press. Yeah. What is a female pirate? Before writing this book and studying the lives of Mary Read and Anne Bonny, I had my own casual notions informed by Hollywood movies and all manner of other media. Brutal, bloodthirsty women. Floozies who could hold their liquor but also sling a gun. And most importantly, they were sexy. Tantalizing, busty, and dripping with desire in their skin-tight leather bodices. They were never, heaven forbid, pregnant. There were often only such one female pirate per story, a token character, a feature of a ship designed to make the life of the strapping male protagonists more interesting. Why would a plot need more than one of these women? For the most part, filmmakers, screenwriters, and other people have made their preferences clear. Of the two most infamous female pirates from popular history, they chose, time and time again, the quick-tempered, flaming hot Irish Anne Bonny. Whether or not they ever called their character Anne or gave her fiery red hair, we actually have no record of her actual hair color, but red fits the part. Many have perpetuated this trope and conflated the two women into a single caricature, all but erasing Mary Read. Now, having written this book, featuring two women who were many things, but who also happen to be pirates, rather than reducing either of them to female pirate stock characters, I found far more questions than answers in my attempt to excavate them from 3 centuries of male gaze. And then there's the question that follows of where did all this male gaze come from? And so there's another book I want to talk to you about today for our presentation. How many of you raise your hands and you can like move, get rid of gold. Have you read this book, General History of the Pirates? Anyone? All right, you can get some gold to yourself from your room here. And you can, this is the text. This is the text. So the determined and including the type terms in a lot of ways exists because this book exists. This is a book called A General History of the Pirates, also known as A General History of the Murders and Robberies of the Most Notorious Pirates. They were very concise in these days. And it was published 302 years ago, written by a man named Captain Charles Johnson. And this has become the Bible of pirate studies. It is the only contemporary text we have from this time other than court trial pamphlets that did the documentations of actual transcribed court proceedings of the pirates. So this is a hugely important text, and it's also very complicated. One being like starting with the pen name. Does anyone have, we're in the 1700s or, early mid 1700s. Captain Charles Johnson is a pen name. Any guesses for who at this time might have actually written this book? Yeah, raise your hands. Defoe is one guess. Yeah, get that row, get some gold back to the government. Defoe is actually printed on this version. This is an older version of the book. Daniel Defoe was written as the author. That was debunked about 10 years ago. It was not Defoe. Defoe did not write this book. Anyone else? Yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago, right? The answer is we don't know. We don't know who wrote this. It was an anonymous person who clearly had a ton of access to resources and sources and unprecedented material, and also got to not be on the record under their real name. Lots of questions arose for me, but because we have so precious few records from pirates themselves, Anne Bonny and Mary Read and Sam Bellamy, for better or for worse, are immortalized because of this text. From his account, we learn that Anne Bonny was an illegitimate daughter to a lawyer and a maid, and she left life in Ireland to build a better one free from persecution in South Carolina, but meant other things that sent her fleeing to safety in the Bahamas in an emergency. We also learn that Mary Read was also illegitimate and that she was likely a daughter of a pirate. She cross-dressed as a cabin boy and then as a cavalry officer years before her path fatefully collides with Anne's in Nassau, Bahamas in 1719. There's violence of every form in the pages of the Determined because it is a pirate book and history was nasty and still is. But the violence I've been especially interested in is I've had to wrestle with this text and to wrestle with 300 years of male gaze for these women has been the violence of narrative. So, we've got two sides of attention here. On one hand, this is the Bible of pirate studies. It's an incredible resource of things we never would have known, a lot of things that have been proven to be very true. And at the same time, this is a man who needed his book to sell. And the thing that was selling most at this time, other than the Bible, were pirate trial pamphlets. these papers that were like basically just transcriptions of, oh, hey, Captain Jack Sparrow.
Don't mind me.
Yeah, so great. Yeah, come on in. Yeah, so on one hand, it's like hugely important doing the great stuff, but also raising some questions. An anonymous source who wants his book to sell like hotcakes. Any questions or tensions you would have, thinking about things like Hollywood. What motives might this anonymous man be up to? In fact, even assuming it's a man. Yeah,
Profit.
profit. So what do we do when we want to make a profit sometimes? Or get headlines? Embellish, yeah, off some gold, send it back. Embellish, yeah, what else? I heard something, yeah.
I said make it juicy.
Make it juicy, right? Make it juicy. Yeah. Gary, I'm gonna throw you some of that gold, because that was good.
Is embellished the same, is embellished the same as exaggerate?
Yeah, sure, why not? Gold opportunities, yeah. Just, slightly coloring it, sell copies, yeah. Anything else? Things that we see in Hollywood all the time.
Make them all beautiful.
Yeah, make everyone beautiful or sexy, which is like definitely
Yes.
relevant here.
Well, make it up completely.
Oh yeah, or is there any accountability to make this up completely? It's true, like, this is actually a piece of tabloid journalism, right?
Yeah.
So if you were shocked to learn that there were female pirates now, imagine how they felt then. This was world news. This was like Anne Bonny and Mary Read getting arrested was like the talk of the world. It was a really big deal at that time. So this book did sell, but unable to verify who wrote it, we can at least think about like what has been the impact of that. So it was never lost on me while I was writing The Determined that maybe I was doing something similar as Captain Johnson. I want my book to sell like hotcakes. But it really did haunt me, like this question of gaze and narrative and so many gaps we have in history always, but particularly with this, with so many layers of mythology. So I actually chose to make Captain Charles Johnson a point of view character in this, interviewing these women from a garrison, and much of what we learn is told in flashbacks. So, yeah.
For the pirates, are you sort of saying that whoever wrote it made up the name Dr. Charles Johnson?
Yeah, it was a pen.
Okay.
Yep, Captain Johnson, yeah.
It was never somebody else that you got.
No one ever claimed it, and no one can figure out who it was.
Okay.
Yeah, despite it being a principal thing, yeah,
We talked about violence.
yeah.
I'm gonna interject that by all accounts, both these women were extremely violent.
By some accounts, but actually mostly myth. We do have some instances, don't worry, they're here, I didn't erase it, I did not water it down, for sure. Yeah,
Mostly myth, you said? Mostly myth?
we're getting into the author, yeah. I promise the end note tells you what's invented and what's not.
Okay.
But again, one of the court trial pamphlets, so I had a few primary texts, so I do have this, but we do have a very detailed court account of what went down in the final battle between Anne and Mary that says exactly what they were doing and how ferocious they were. And there was reasons for that. So I'm actually going to read chapter 1 of The Determined, if that's okay, just to give you a sense of like, who are these characters and what are the stakes. So I don't know why I'm like looking for a mic, but not a mic. I'm here. Hello, I'm the mic. All right. Spanish Town, Jamaica, February 1721. Spine pressed against the prison wall, Anne rested her hands on the swell of her stomach. The cloth of her breeches, the same ones from the night of their capture, clung to her damp skin as she sat on the unforgiving stone floor. She could still smell the grape shot and gunpowder. She wore the same shirt too, his calico shirt. The bitter memory pierced her like a rapier. Not even the child had energy to move. Nothing had energy to move in Jamaica's heat. Anne didn't bother to glance up at the hush of men speaking outside her cell, the sound of their shuffling boots. Among them, she made out the voice of the burly guard who brought her daily water. I insist on supervising, he said. She has no shackles. Are you suggesting I'm unable to protect myself against an unarmed woman? Asked an unfamiliar voice. The guard huffed. She is no woman. I can hold my own, I assure you, the stranger said. Anne stiffened, aware of her vulnerable position. But if this visitor dared to touch her, he wouldn't be able to hold his own bowels when she was done with him. She resolved to betray no nerves. A silence followed, heavy as the humid air in this god-forsaken garrison. Do consider, surely, my good man, you have heard of my reputation? The guard relented. I'll be down the hall. Call if you need assistance. Not until after the squeal of her door opening, then closing with a decisive click, did Anne tuck a strand of red hair behind her ear. She lazily lifted her gaze up from the straw-covered ground. Good afternoon, the gentleman said, clearing his throat and removing an ostrich-feathered tricorn. He wiped beads of sweat from his wrinkled forehead with a kerchief clean as snow before placing it inside the leather bag he carried. Anne watched without blinking as he scanned the dim room, the saggy cot, a three-legged stool, a rancid bucket, the streak of sun from the slash window above, then, finally, at her. I am sorry that a young woman of 23 in your condition must bear these difficult circumstances. He arched a brow as if ready for a reaction. Any reaction. She looked away, hiding a stab of despair. Sighing, he pulled the wooden stool from the corner and placed it in front of her. May I? Anne balked. She couldn't help it. She'd known a life of pleasantries and politeness once, and she could still see through them. I don't have to ask who you are, since on that everyone is clear. Or are they? He paused. But you can call me Captain Charles Johnson. Yes, I know my way around a ship, circumnavigated the globe by my 27th birthday, if you can believe it. What I believe is that you're a rat spying for Governor Laws. The sound of her own voice, loud yet raw from 8 weeks of solitary confinement, startled her. No, miss, I assure you, I come of my own business. At this, the baby kicked. Hard. Her hand flew to her side. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. She still had 2 months of this feisty thing waging war in her womb. The captain smiled, probably thinking he was making headway. The fool. He took a seat, then pulled out a small oak desk from his bag, along with a quill and some parchment. He rested a crystal inkwell on the floor. No weapons, no objects of torture. Anne felt her muscles relax and eyed the writing materials with a surge of longing. But still, this Gowl, whoever he might be, deserved nothing. You have no reason to fear me, he said. I don't fear you, Anne lied. Johnson inhaled, nodding. She did not like the way his eyes lit when she spoke. I'm a writer as well as a captain, the man said, inking his quill. I have traveled far to see you. And your friend. Mary's face flashed before her. I am compiling a book. The world is eager to understand you, to learn how. No, Anne said. No, no, no. Anne placed a firm hand on the wall to pull herself up, to yank herself out of the upswell of desperation that flooded her chest, threatened to drag her under. She did not want to sit below him, to be pitied, judged, or exploited by this blunderbuss. She folded her arms over her belly and glanced at the desk balanced on his knees. Her fingers twitched with yearning, and she imagined wielding the quill herself. If you help me, Captain Johnson said with practiced patience, I might be able to help you. Of all the many lies she'd ever been told, it was the most beautiful one she'd ever heard. So that's chapter 1 of this chapter. So as I mentioned, like throughout this book, I weave together primary sources, the court trials, Captain Charles Johnson, mythology, legend, speculation, but also, my own imagination. So to give you a sample of this challenging task, we're going to play a game of 2 truths and a lie. I'm going to have someone read 3 quotes, some brave person willing to come up here and read 3 quotes. We're just going to listen to them first. And then we'll read them one more time and vote after each one to try to figure out which one did I invent for the novel and which one was actually an historical record. Anyone want to feel like reading with Gusto? All right, come up here. Round of applause. Give her some gold on my road. Yeah, I'm gonna y'all you're gonna be convicted of piracy. You need to get ready to roll. All right, are you ready?
Yes.
See if I am. All right, go ahead and listen. 3 quotes, just listen first.
First one. May the devil make a ladder out of your bones to pick apples in the garden of hell. Do I say Anne Bonny? Okay. If you had fought like this, that's say, number two, if you had fought like a man, you need not hang like a dog. And number three, as to a hanging, it is no hardship, for were it not for that, every cowardly fellow would turn pirate, and so infest the seas that men of courage must starve. Mary Read.
All right, thanks. Yeah, round of applause. Reading. Okay. You heard the quote. You okay reading them one more time? Going through it. Okay, here's the first one. A.
May the devil make a ladder out of your bones to pick apples in the garden of hell. I love that one.
Okay, raise your hand if you think that was in the historical record. Or sorry, raise your hand if you think I invented it. Because 2 of these are in the historical record. Raise your hand. Okay, we got 3 people think I invented it. Okay, all right.
Number 2, if you had fought like a man, you need not hang like a dog.
Raise your hand. Okay, you think that's the lie. All right. Okay.
As to a hanging, it is no hardship, for were it not for that, every cowardly fellow would turn pirate, and so infest the seas that men of courage must starve. Mary Read.
All right, raise your hand. Is that the lie? No, okay, we'll have one person. I have exact same sweatshirt, by the way. Great. Okay, we got 2. Yeah, thank you so much. That was awesome. Yeah. All right. I'm so pleased. I stumped you all so good. B and C are true. B and C are true.
Do it.
Yeah. A is the lie. A is the lie. It is not attributed to Anne Bonny, but it is a real Irish curse. So I had the opportunity of working with some Irish experts as well as doing some field work in Nassau to try to do justice to the story. Nassau was a den of pirates, or they also called it a nest of pirates at this time. It was a full-blown anarchy, independent of the government for about a decade. When Anne and Mary met up at a very divergent place in their lives to this patch of sand. It's also where they met a man named Captain Jack Rackham. He was the captain of the Revenge, head of their pirate gang, and he also infamously became Anne Bonny's lover. And so, imagining them on a ship, imagining what all people do on ships at this time, we are going to sing a sea shanty. All right, thanks so much. Yeah, round of applause for my friend Rich here. We are going to sing Wellerman. Raise your hand if you're familiar with Wellerman. We all went through the pandemic and the TikTok thing. I don't know. Okay. So those of you who know Wellerman, feel confident. Go for it. And if you don't know what we're doing or what's going on, just jump in at the chorus. It gets repetitive. So let's go ahead and have a go.
All right, everyone. To remind you of the ground rules. If you're a good singer, don't sing. If you're a bad singer, please sing. Rewarding enthusiasm here. And I have to use the words too, because I'm not a real pirate.
I need to.
We're both going to use the words. I need them. I'm going to. You ready?
Okay, all right.
1,
Okay.
2, 3. There once was a ship that put to sea, and the name of the ship was Elusive. The wind blew up her bow, it down, oh blow my bully boys blow. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tongue is done, we'll take our leave and go. Not another 2 weeks from shore and down on the right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tongue is done, we'll take our leave and go. Before the hook had hit the water, the whale down them up and caught her all hands inside, harpooned and fought her when she died below. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tongue is done, we'll take our leave and go. No line was cut, no whale was free. The captain's line was not hungry, but he belonged to the whaleman's free and took our ship in tow. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tongue is done, we'll take our leave and go. For 40 days or even more, the line went slack then tight once more. All boats were lost, there were only 4, but still that whale did go. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tongue is done, we'll take our leave and go.
As far as I know, the fight's still on, the lights not cut, the wheels not gone. The Wellerman makes his regular call to encourage the captain, crew, and all. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tongue is done, we'll take our leave and go.
Well, sound like you're ready to fire. Sure. All right, we're gonna go ahead and play another round of Two Truths and a Lie, just to get us back. Any other brave volunteer want to come? And this is more fun facts, so you don't have to feel like you have to do dramatic voices. This is fun facts. 2 of them are real, 1 of them I made up. Leslie, let's go. All right, get rid of your gold. You don't deserve this gold anymore. Throw it to the governor.
They're throwing it together.
Yep. Yeah.
Here we go. 2 truths and a lie. I'll start with A. Oh, I think you gave me the one from last time.
Oh, I sure did. Here you go. Once again, listen to the first round and we'll vote on the second.
Okay. A. Captain Jack Rackham was also called Calico Jack because he wore flamboyant calico shirts of all colors, a bold statement for a man of his time. B. Pirate flags came in a variety of colors and designs. The black iconic one we immediately picked up with a skull and crossbones over 2 crossed swords is the Jolly Roger flag that Anne, Mary, and Rackham flew. C. The one bed trope that often features in romantic stories organically appears twice in the historical record for Anne and Mary.
All right. Probably you romance people out there. Okay. All right. Yeah, this is a good sign. This stunk. Like, what are we gonna? Okay. Read them one more time and let's vote. Okay. First one.
Captain Jack Rackham was also called Calico Jack because he wore flamboyant calico shirts of all colors, a bold statement for a man of his time.
Who thinks that's the lie? Who thinks that's the lie? All right. Okay. One lie.
Pirate flags came in a variety of colors and designs. The black iconic one we immediately think of, with a skull and crossbones over 2 crossed swords, is the Jolly Roger flag that Anne, Mary, and Rackham flew.
That's the lie. Okay.
Second half of that, after Jolly Roger.
Let's see. It's the Jolly Roger flag that Anne, Mary, and Rackham flew.
Yeah. So basically, the main characters were determined like the iconic pirate flag with the swords. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
C. The one bed trope that often features in romantic stories organically appears twice in the historical record for Anne and Mary.
So can you speak what the one bed was?
The one bed trope is the like, oh no, we showed up at the hotel and there's only one bed. Yeah.
That's my bed.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Round of applause for Leslie. Someone in that row. You have the gold back there. Okay. All right, so A and B are true. A and B are true. It's true that Captain Rackham was called Calico Jack. It's also true that the sword and crossbow, this is actually Sam Bellamy's flag, except for no kitschy eye patch. This is Sam Bellamy. So this is the Cape Cod pirate. But the swords was what Rackham flew. So now you know. Now you know, but there were lots of different designs and sometimes different colors. Red meant we're gonna kill you, black was we're gonna steal your stuff. So but yeah, so C is only half true. There actually is a scene from a general history of the pirates where someone has to share a tent with a man she is secretly in love with while still presenting as a man. So the other one is something that I invented, so you're welcome. So yeah, there's plenty of challenge in this book. There's a lot of grit, there's a lot of sacrifice, but there's also no small amount of love, especially between these 2 women. And what does it mean to be a woman? Actually, we're going to read from here. So gender is a timeless and a very timely subject. And in some ways, it's actually what Anne and Mary were on trial for. Hi, Isaac and Wolfie, welcome. So my book doesn't answer questions about gender, but it does present 2 people in history stuck at a crossroads of the stakes of this very specific context. So I'm going to read a scene that talks more explicitly about gender and the challenges that Anne and Mary faced. While perhaps most exciting, the setup for what Anne and Mary brilliantly plotted to do about it. And this is real. So the context right now is they're on the Revenge and they're talking in confidence after everyone has gone to bed. What has it meant for you? Mary asked, this business of being a woman. Anne sighed. King of burden, not a son. I told you of my own disguises as a child, my parents' notion to pass me off as an heir. She paused. To be a woman is to be a liability, dependent, vulnerable, trapped, blamed, hunted. No, that's not right. Not the better part anyway. But to give it language somehow feels small, limiting. And whoever I am, whatever it means that I was born a female and go about the world as such, I resist being caged, confined and cornered, fixed into a time and place, stuck in a certain way or position, determined. I'm in as much in flux as the shifting tides, as a ship aching to make way. If this is fundamentally female, as you're suggesting, Mary said, burning with the truths she recognized, whether or not it was specific to women and not the whole of humankind, then why are women not welcome aboard ships? If men call the ocean female and refer to their sloops and pinks and brigs and even their tiny fishing boats as female, why don't women make up the majority of crews? My man used to tell me the old stories, didn't yours? Tales of Cylon, the old pagan gods. No, Mary said, the word like a vice around her heart. The Greeks saw the sea as female. The Cretians worshipped the gorgeous goddess of fertility who also granted protection to sailors. Then there were the sirens, who ate up the hearts of the poor defensive sailors. Mermaids, as you're no doubt familiar with, seducing men and luring them to their demise by using their appetites and fantasies against them. Mary knitted her brow. You're suggesting that it isn't women's competency that prevents them from joining crews, but rather men's fear of them. Yes, some rubbish like that. It threatens a man's strength, his way of being in the world, the natural order of things. At this, Mary sat upright. It came to her in a flood of revelation. The way forward, the way to change their fortunes. I have an idea, she said, fighting the urge to shout it to the entire crew. And to find out what their scheme was that really happened, I guess we'll just have to leave the book. So we've got, let's do about 10 minutes of questions, 5 to 10 minutes of questions, and then I have one last thing to close this out with in terms of a reading. But yeah, you all have great questions. So now let's make space for it. Hit me with it, and maybe we can all scheme together. And yeah, only a few of you have read this book so far, so this is fun and fresh. Yeah, Lynn being one of them. Great job, Lynn.
I have a question.
Yeah, and this is great. You can get rid of the gold too. Raise your hand if you've got gold on you. Like, we're not looking good.
Yeah. Oh, we have to take gold.
Yeah.
Take that.
Oh,
Yeah, take the gold and throw it back to the government.
oh, I won't have a problem.
Yeah.
And even as somebody who has like studied pirates your whole life,
Yeah.
you were researching for this book. Was there anything you learned that surprised you?
There were a lot of things that surprised me. I'll just go ahead and read one other paragraph in my author's note at the end. Again, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I answered this very thing. It's just like, this was surprising. This was a surprising book. It was almost as surprising as going to the Widow Museum and realizing that everything I thought I knew about pirates was kind of wrong. Yeah, what emerged from this hard labor of excavating these women from a history long since past? 1,000 surprises. Though I didn't set out to write a story with menstruation, variations on sexual assault, miscarriage, the realities of pregnancy, or the grueling experience of birth. That is what emerged on the pages as I researched, studied, and wrote. Less female pirate stock footage, but also I saw a pirate story I'd certainly never heard before and felt more recognizable. In these two women who lived real brave lives with just 2 months out of all that brave time spent pillaging together on the high seas. So I think, I mean, 2 months of my life go by all the time. I'm like, well, they're gone, but like 2 months and like the whole context of their lives that led them to that specific place. It was really rich. It was really, and again, and it's all here. It's all here. It's been here for 300 years, but the parts that have been emphasized in Hollywood have been very different. Yeah. So thanks for asking. Yeah. Garrett, yeah. Go ahead, Garrett.
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate. Please don't hate me till I leave. Is there
I got my history back. I'm on. Go.
any cooking or laundry in your book?
Is there what?
Any cooking or laundry work in your book?
Oh yeah, and especially once they find out that Mary is not a dude, like yeah, is back on duty for that more than she was before. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Life before the washing machine. Yeah.
I think that title is brilliant. Was that your title or was that the people who
Yeah, no, it's definitely, yeah, it's my title. It's my title. Yeah, it actually came to me here on Cape Cod. I was here celebrating, If the Tide Turns is dedicated to my writing group. And so as kind of a celebration, I brought them out here because I wanted to show them the Winna Museum and I wanted to show them these shores that have meant so much to me. And so I was having some writing block and we found these, Marconi Beach has some of these like gorgeous flat shells that almost look like sand dollars. So we got some of these like magical pebbles. Well, we decided they were magical and brought it back to the Airbnb we were staying. We put all our laptops in a circle with like the corners touching. They're all parents and like working so hard. And so they just like got right in and it was like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I was like, okay, I'm going to come up with a title. And I just made a list of like really stupid titles. But then I wrote The Determined. And I just knew it was the right one. It speaks to their determination, but also, yeah, like predetermination and the flattening of something to be determined and fixed in time. And it's also very much like an actual trial. Like these women are like have been determined and confined to prison. So yeah, I was playing with that. Thanks for noticing. Yeah. And thanks Cape Cod for the special magic stones from Marconi Beach. Yeah.
Did any of your research contradict what was in the Pirates?
In the book, yeah, the kind of things that, because again, we just truly have so few records. We've got 3 primary sources in this. I think the way that I pushed against the text wasn't so much like, well, I don't know about this. If anything, like a lot of the kinds of dynamics that he describes, I'm finding just more and more instances of. The kinds of things I pushed back against is like, there's a scene where Mary is in the war. And at this point, like this person who's like just incredible in like everything that she has survived to this point, including being on a Navy ship and now, rising to the levels of cavalry. And the way he writes is just like, oh, she's just so in love that she just like couldn't put her gun together. He's like, really? Like really? From like what I know about like competent women, he's like, if she can survive this long, like, yeah, but it's like, oh, she just lost her head, kind of this like, it's like, that's an interesting. So that scene is in my book of like her fumbling with her gun, but there's a lot more context of what I think is going on there. So, but I did take it very seriously. Every scene that's in this book, I reckoned with. Like, so sometimes I just have a different take on kind of the dynamic of what was going on. Yeah. Yeah, good question. Give her some gold. Yeah, that row, you're going to be very safe. Yeah, more questions. Yeah.
When you were in Nassau, like are there records there? Is there information there? Or is it more like just to get a sense of the scene and?
All of the above. We're all very lucky here on the Cape. The Witta Pirate Museum is the best pirate museum in the world. Like it actually just is. To have actual artifacts from the wooden age that is gone. So much of what pirate colonists know about pirates is from that museum. And so, yeah, it was hard to go from like researching on the Cape Cod to Nassau, where, there is a museum there and it's a good resource, but like it's wax figurines, like there's not artifacts like that. They're literally gone. There was a few museums though that I went into. In fact, the most important one, and there are some artifacts similar to the Tide Turns where there's like actual Easter eggs from the Witta Museum in the book. There's some actual Easter eggs from this museum in the Determined, but it was very clear I was there on off season. Everyone was there to like tourist and have a good time. The main museum, there was like the Heritage Museum I went to, it was closed for construction. And I was like, this cannot be. So like I talked to the construction workers and they're like, yeah, sure. It's like I wandered around with no power, just like looking around. And then through the construction workers, I got in touch with like who owns the establishment, explained what I was doing. They turned on the lights for me and I was able to spend a few more days with the artifacts. But yeah, so it's not so much like from the wooden world, but things like what's going on in South Carolina with the slave trade at this time, like things like that. And yeah, a lot of like what they were eating and what Nassau was like at that time. In addition to some like forts and stuff that were there at the time that are still around. But yeah, it wasn't the Witta Pirate Museum, but I was determined. I got into that museum. Thanks for that. And yeah.
There are so many great visual scenes. You do a very good job painting the picture and, very visual oriented, a lot of action. And I'm wondering who's going to pick it up and make a movie.
Yeah, who's going to pick it up and make a movie, guys? Who knows people? Yeah, that's really nice. I mean, I don't know how these things work out. Who would be cast as Anne Bonny? I'm like,
Harrison Ford's too old.
yeah, no, Harrison Ford is gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, Anne Bonny's 23, Mary's 35 at this time. And Rockham, I don't know. Anyway, think about it, let me know and I'll like, call my people. Yeah, I think you. Yeah, any other questions? These are great. You all know your history. I love it. Yeah, Captain Sparrow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you find any interesting reactions from the public or other pirates about the trial, like after it happened? Did word even like travel about everything?
Yeah, so there's, without spoiling anything at the end of the book, like I do honor like the mystery of how it all ended. But like I think I just like to give you a sense of like it was huge news. Like it was huge. They actually tried the women 3 weeks after the men, separately, very much on purpose, because they wanted them to have a full-blown trial and not be like, that man made me do it. Like, but yeah, that was news like back in England, everywhere, like everyone, like that was a packed courtroom.
Trial of the century, but for that time.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Exactly. So yeah, and then because of something that happened in the court trial, and then afterwards, things kind of miraculously kind of go away from the light for a while. Yeah. Anyway, that was vague for a reason, but yeah, wild stuff. So, yeah.
I'm really interested in the pirate ships themselves. The widow would eventually gonna be able to bring up pieces of the widow.
Right.
But do you know what happened to the Revenge?
It was taken over by the governor of Jamaica when it got taken by a privateer. And so I don't know what happened to it after that. Great question. In some odd ways, the Widow is preserved because it sunk. Yeah, the wooden world is like, and that was one of my griefs is going to Nassau. Just like the wooden world is gone. Like it just, unless it's like the US Constitution and there's like all these dollars to preserve something like, yeah. It's gone, but the Revenge was the William, and they may have even returned it to the guy who like they stole it from. It was a very well beloved ship at the time. Do you find out the answer to that? You let me know, Dave. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm just going to close this out with reading one last thing. And I'm debating whether or not we want to read a depressing sea shanty. Do we want to play a depressing sea shanty? I don't think so. I think we're gonna end. No, we're gonna do it.
Whatever you want.
Hold on. Let me code switch. We're gonna do it. We're going to sing a song now. We're gonna sing a song. I'm actually going to play it for you a little bit on my phone so you can get the tune of it because it's not one that you know. It's my favorite sea shanty actually. It's called Bones in the Ocean. And yeah, you'll see. For those of you who came in late, there's some like shanty lyrics. This is on the back page. Sing all of it badly, please. And we'll close out that, and then I'll have one last tiny rating, and then we'll get going on the treasure, which, let's see if you earned, like, I only see a little bit of gold left. Raise your hand if there's gold on you or in your row.
Well, we could have passed it.
All right, yeah. That's pretty good. I feel like you're innocent. Okay. All right, here's Bones in the Ocean. I'm just gonna play like 3 or 4 verses, okay?
Oh, I bid farewell to the port and the land, and I paddle away from brave England's white sands, to search for my long ago forgotten friends, to search for the place I hear all sailors end. At the souls of the dead fill the space of my mind. I'll search without sleeping till peace I can find. I fear not the weather, I fear not the sea. I remember the fallen, do they think of me? When they're bones in the ocean, forever with me.
All right, so that's a verse and that's the chorus. All right, give it up for Rich again. We're gonna focus that, Bones in the Ocean.
We're gonna sound just like that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be amazing.
I know.
Okay. That was the note we're on.
All right.
Oh, I bid farewell to the port and the land, and I paddle away from brave Nassau's white sands to search for my long ago forgotten friends, to search for the place I hear all sailors end. As the souls of the dead fill the space of my mind, I'll search without sleeping till peace I can find. I fear not the weather, I fear not the sea. I remember the fallen, do they think of me? When their bones in the ocean forever will be. Plot a course to the night, to a place I once knew, to a place where my hope died along with my crew. So I swallow my grief and face life's final test, to find promise of peace and the solace of rest. As the songs of the dead fill the space of my ears, their laughter like children, their beckoning cheers. My heart longs to join them, sing songs of the sea. I remember the fallen, do they think of me? When their bones in the ocean forever will be. When at last before my ghostly shipmates I stand, I shed a small tear for my home upon land. Through their eyes speak of depths of bliss, struggle and strife. Their smiles will say I don't owe them my life. As the souls of the dead fill the space of my eyes, my boat listed over and tried to capsize. I'm this far from drowning, this far from the sea. I remember the living, do they think of me? When my bones in the ocean forever will be. Now that I'm staring down at the darkest abyss, I'm not sure what I want, but I don't think it's this. As my comrades all as the Titcomb or not, the loneliness is gone. As the souls of the dead live forever in my mind, as I live all the years that they left me behind. I'll stay on the shore, but still gaze at the sea. I remember the fallen, and they think of me. For our souls in the ocean together will be. I remember the fallen, and they think of me. For our souls in the ocean together will be.
I'm gonna go ahead and just close out with the very last paragraph of my author's notes. All right, here we go. Mary Read and Anne Bonny lived specific and nuanced lives not determined by a general history. To claim otherwise would be impossible, and yet they were singularly determined. Like many other characters I encountered while writing this book, particularly the women, forced to make impossible choices who could not afford the illusion or posturing of innocence. In the words of Rebecca Alexander Simon, who's a scholar on these two, Anne Bonny and Mary Read are the two most well-known female pirates of the age, but their lives represent the countless number of women who sailed the seas and were lost to history. And to that I add, the more we question and add to the record of tales of women like them, including in the realm of imagination, the more the story goes on, with new layers and complexity continuing to unfurl. That's it, folks. Yeah, and for support Titcomb, I'm gonna be over here signing, please. Get some treasure, get some custom stickers or some pirate booty courtesy of a Dave. And if you could sign my book, I'd be very grateful. And if you want to just put your sea shanty lyrics in a pile, I'll take those off you too. Thank you so much.